everyone, and welcome down to episode number 22 of the Down South Photo Show with me, Brendan Waits. And normally this is where I introduce my mate, Cam, down there in Hobart Town. Cam is off on a whitewater rafting adventure, teaching people how to take photos in a moving whitewater raft. What could possibly go wrong? So we've decided to bring in a guest host / guest for the first time ever in the history of the Down South Photo Show. This very well-established and long-running podcast, 22 episodes old, which we'll come to shortly. Just briefly wanted to do what we normally do, and that's thank everyone for subscribing and listening along to the podcast. It's been great. We've had a lot of positive feedback over the last few weeks with the episodes. Looks like we are about to actually catch up and get back onto a regularly scheduled program with the pod and with the YouTube, with everything that's been going on. We've had weeks that we've missed, and we've had weeks we've had to do double episodes. So thanks for putting up with us, but we look like we're back on some kind of track now. Little bit of an update on what I've been doing this week. My photography workshops came back this week, which was fantastic. We ran our first workshop in almost 2 years on Monday night, which was awesome. Our entry-level digital SLR workshop. We had 6 people come along, very enthusiastic, so it was great. So they are back, and that is excellent. If you would like to learn more about our workshops, cameraandphoto.com.au and tazphotos.com.au, camblakphotography.com.au as well. But without any further ado, I would like to introduce our guest host or / guest for the night. And this is a local landscape photographer based in Torquay, where I happen to have one of my shops as well. Becoming very well known in the area for his landscape photography, one of my favorite local photographers as well. And without wanting to make him blush too much, I shall introduce him. Say hello, everyone, to Ash Hughes. Hello, Ash.
Hey guys, how are we? Well, it's an absolute pleasure, especially being the first guest, I guess, you've had on the show. So I'm an avid listener, and been here since day one. It's a great little show.
I'm super impressed that you're an avid listener. It's been a bit of a journey for us. As you know, we kicked all this off with everything that's been going on with COVID and everything. So out of something really negative, something positive has come, which is, and as I say, it's been great so far. And it's good to have support of a rather talented photographer, mate. Before we go any further, this is normally where Cam and I like to work out what's going on with your background there. Is this one of your photos in your background?
It is. This is about the only wildflowers I think we've got in Torquay, or maybe the only wildflowers we've actually got in Victoria, with any colour anyway. We usually have a lot of wattle around this area, but this is a little patch, and it's probably no bigger than a metre by a metre that grows and pops up every spring on one of Torquay's main beaches here. So it's
right.
It's one of my favorite things to do, and we'll probably talk about it as we go on, but just getting in real sort of low and just getting that blurry sort of dreamy vibe going. So just with color, I love color. So if you sort of see any of my photography, it's usually colorful. So
well, it's awesome that you can literally almost roll out of bed and get a photo like that. So very handy to have a subject like that in your backyard. So Ash Hughes photos.com.au, did I get that right?
That's correct. ashhughesphotos.com.
Yep. .com, no au. So ashhughesphotos.com. Pop down and have a look. Pop over and have a look at his website. It is awesome. I visit his website regularly, and it's updated regularly as well. So there's always new stuff to check out on his website. So naturally, there will be a link in the description below. But I thought what we'd do is have a bit of a chat with Ash and pick his brain a little bit about all things photography. I've known Ash for 4-ish years, I suppose now. Ash, would it be?
Yeah, probably a little bit less. I don't think I've been in the game that long, but wouldn't be much.
I think we crossed paths when I opened my Torquay store about 3.5 years ago, so that makes kind of sense. And I think from the first time I saw some of Ash's stuff, it was like, this guy knows what it's all about. So I thought what we would do is just basically interview you, Ash, and ask you the whys, whats, and wherefores of why you're into what you do. Also, we'll probably have a bit of a talk about your crammed wedding schedule at the moment, which I know has got you burning the candle at both ends. So I really do appreciate your time tonight.
It's a pleasure. Before we go any further, we usually ask about your photo, just where that is in.
Sure. Wow. You're putting Cam out of a job already. This is great. So what we have here, look, if I do this, like the magic of modern technology, well, we did that last week and then you can see all my frames. This is Bowen Heads. So this is 13th Beach Road. You'd be familiar with that one, Ash. Beautiful. And if right over there, hang on, let me get back in the frame. So just over my shoulder right there is the Bowen Heads Golf Club. Yeah, that was just a little snap I ran out and did when at the moment. That is pretty indicative of the weather that we've been having here, isn't it, Ash?
Apart from sunset tonight, you tell me.
So yeah, of all the nights to bring Ash on, I looked out the window before and it was a banging sunset. So it was like, yeah, good on you. Have this guy on the podcast and break his heart because he can't go out and take photos of the sunset. He's got to sit here and talk to me.
There was lots of good pinks and high clouds and that, which usually is a good sign for a good sunset. So absolutely.
So just quickly looking at your website, I really liked, I've gone straight to the about page, of course, like all good researchers would do. And I describe myself as a pretty relaxed dude who likes getting out of the house. I like that. I reckon that sums you up pretty much within one sentence. Whether it's travel, chasing the kids around the traps, having a beer with mates, eating out, or just generally hanging out in nature, that's me in a nutshell. Oh, and I love sport, any sport. So, you know, we're sort of, I feel like we're almost kindred spirits, Ash. So we've both got a real love for, in particular, landscape photography. And so you're still in that mode where you like getting out of the house these days?
For sure. Having two young kids, I think you're happy to get out of the house at every opportunity you can. So no, it's like we're kind of lucky where we live. I'm 5-minute drive from the beach, and seascapes is really one thing that is very attractable for me. I love the ocean, and it's probably the reason I really got into photography in the first place, which wasn't that long ago, where I probably started taking it a bit more seriously. I hurt my back and couldn't really get in the water as much as I wanted to.
Okay, so avid sort of surfer and always.
Oh, kind of up and down. I was just getting back into it, and our oldest daughter, was born, so 5 years ago, and all things with babies is bending over in the wrong way and picking them up, and my back went about a month into her life, and
wow,
never really been the same. So took me a little while to figure out what I wanted to really be doing, and always had a little bit of an interest with the camera in my hand, but I sort of thought and made a few sort of pacts with myself, I guess, to get out and sort of explore the land that we live in, because I haven't been down here my whole life. I'm a Ballarat boy, which is probably an hour and a bit up the road, inland, cold, freezing, and nice place, but it's nicer down here. So, but yeah, explore. Torquay's the start of the Great Ocean Road, so it's you can sort of duck out and see some pretty amazing sights pretty quickly. So, yeah, still love getting out and about.
So prior to the back injury and that becoming a catalyst for you wanting to pick up the camera a bit more, was there an interest in photography prior to that?
Yeah, so we were big travelers. My wife and myself, before kids, we would often jet off, and I'd always have a little bit better camera than your stock standard point and shoot. It still wasn't high end, it still wasn't full frame or anything like that, but it was certainly something that I had a liking for. I look back at some of those images now, some of the ones that I've kept, that's one thing I didn't know a lot about was storage and how to keep raw files. But yeah, look back at some of those now and I cringe. I even look back at some of the ones when I was calling myself a photographer 3 years ago and sort of cringe as well. But at the same time, I guess that's that learning curve that you're always doing and learning something new. So, and improving on that. So yeah, it's, I don't know, it's a great hobby and one that I'll happily take a photo of a landscape. I'll happily take a photo of something in the ocean. I'll happily take a photo of something like behind me, up close with the macro type thing. It doesn't have to be one specific genre, I guess you'd call it. But yeah, really enjoy just getting out with the camera in the hand and trying some new things, see what I can land.
So I'm going to try and weed out as much as I can out of you here, Ash. I'm curious. So that the first, well, let's call it real, in inverted commas, camera that you owned. What was that?
Real, probably a Canon with 70D, I think it was.
Fantastic little camera.
Yeah, it is. It's look, I think you've sort of touched on it, and Cam and that in previous shows. Any camera that you've got is better than no camera. So whether that's an iPhone, which is your weapon of choice, or whether it's a $15,000 whatever they are. Look, I'll say it straight off the bat. I'm not a fanboy of anyone. I am a Sony user now, but it's the same with me cooking. I don't care how it gets there, as long as the food tastes good. I don't care how a photo is taken or how much it's edited, as long as it looks good. That's all I'm about.
Yeah. That's a good way to look at it. It's a great way to look at photography, because we're all, well, I'm certainly guilty. I'm in the industry, so I'm in the retail, of selling cameras and that sort of stuff. So I'm definitely guilty of gear acquisition syndrome and looking at all the latest toys and seeing. And avid listeners to the podcast will know the common thread through it all, and that is the best camera is the one you've got on you, indeed. And a lot of my gear is quite ancient, and the running gag of the iPhone thing that I actually am using quite a lot more than I've honestly thought I would, mainly because the best camera is the one you've got on you. So when you started out, though, were you looking more to shoot landscape, or it didn't really worry you? You just wanted to get behind the camera? So did you, what I'm getting at there is, did you set yourself up with landscape-ish gear, like wide angle lenses and that sort of stuff?
I did. And again, it's funny looking back at that sort of stuff. Like, you go landscape and people talk about wide angle, and a lot of my shots nowadays aren't wide angle at all. Like I've got I don't know whether you want to touch on it later, but I've got a 24 prime that I use. But a lot of my shots are a lot longer than that. I love my big telephoto lenses, or something in that 85 prime range as well. And I think wedding photography is kind of rubbed off a little bit on that. Like, it's more of a portrait lens, but the more you use it and the more you sort of understand it, the more you sort of want to apply that.
We're definitely going to delve into the wedding stuff a little bit later. I'm really curious about all that as well. That'll be interesting. But yeah, if you pop over to Ash's website and check it out, one thing that comes through that I notice is his color palette is very, very, it's almost unique, I think. I like your color palette, and it shines through in a lot of your images. Nowadays I can see an image and I'll know it's yours without even looking at the caption, particularly around here, because a lot of your stuff gets thrown around social media, which is fantastic. I know a lot of local businesses, I think some government stuff use your images as well, which is brilliant, with credit, of course. So, and I also noticed when you talk about your Zoom stuff, you do pluck the landscape out of the landscape. I really like that. It's I think it's a little bit unique in this area, particularly around here, because we have such big sky landscapes and great big landscapes. You do quite well at isolating subjects in the landscape as well. Is that something that you consciously look for, or are you the kind of person that just rocks up to a location and goes, what do we got here, and plays with what's in front of you?
That's part of it, because I reckon the tighter you can get on a landscape, the more landscapes you can find. So if you go out with a wide angle lens and you're always looking for that great sunset, it's not there most of the time. So you're going to be disappointed, and the sky is going to be blown out or cloudy, or not the colors you want. But if you go out with that wide angle, in case that happens, but if you sort of go out with a 85, or I've got a 150 to 600 Sigma, you can pick off little scant landscapes that the colors don't need to be doing things in the sky, or and you can pick them off and change that perspective, and all of a sudden you've got 10 different shots that a wide angle wouldn't get you, basically. So it's just one of the things, because I do like to get out and about, take photos of so many different things. Just having something with a bit more reach, it pulls it into the camera, I guess.
Yeah, and I guess also having something with a bit of reach means when you go out and the conditions aren't quite conducive, or aren't what you hope they would be, you still have something to shoot. Yeah. You still have something to play with and something to do. Exactly. And I know, you spend a lot of your time along the Great Ocean Road, and you don't want to go out and drive 2, 3, 4 hours somewhere and just go, oh, well, this is crap, I'm going home. You want to actually, have a crack at it. And to that end as well, I know that you do use your drone a fair bit as well to help you out there. Yeah,
look, drones are probably the thing that kept me motivated early. When I really wasn't, I didn't really know what I was doing. I got a DJI Spark, which was it didn't shoot in RAW. It just shot in JPEG, and I reckon I absolutely got every little inch out of that thing that it could. I kept
a very underrated drone, the Spark. I had one of them as well, and I love that little thing.
Yeah, it was amazing. It wasn't until I upgraded that I realized how much I was probably missing out on. But I still sell a lot of images that were taken with that Spark, and they blow up. Like editing's a big thing as well with how big you can blow something up, but they blow up quite well for what it was, the size it was, and basically only shooting in JPEG. So
yeah, so we're talking about a 12 megapixel JPEG file basically out of a little Spark. Had a really nice little lens on it though. I think it would delivered like a 24mm wide angle and a 12 megapixel image. And to be perfectly honest, it's probably, you know, the sensor inside it was probably as good as an iPhone XR or something like that.
Yeah,
but you know, it's still
DJI, I reckon, is an absolute. It's just changed the game so much. Whether it's drones or what they're doing with video at the moment, it's just such a big innovator that it's forcing other companies to catch up, basically. And yeah, they get the bad name because the Chinese and the Americans think that they're spying on them and all that sort of stuff, which is a whole other conversation. But the things that they're doing are changing the game for both photographers and filmmakers, and just getting access to places as well. So
yeah, it's pretty phenomenal. We touched last week on the show about the new Mavic 3, and I know that you've got your eyes on one of them already. And I mean, why wouldn't you? It just looks absolutely incredible. Another game changer from DJI. So, and the thing that got me hooked on drones, I mean, you know, I've been taking landscape photos for ages, and the thought of being able to put a camera pretty much wherever I wanted to, whether that be, you know, 1 meter off the swell out you know, over the ocean, or you know, down below cliff level and that sort of stuff. Absolutely awesome. It really, like you, I found that the drone almost reinvigorated and re-inspired me to get back into photography a lot more. So
yeah,
definitely an awesome tool to have in your kit, as much as Cam Blake hates them.
Yeah, I've heard him talk about it. But like you guys have said, like the first thing you want to do out of the box is fly at 120 meters, which is the legal maximum height.
That's right.
But the more you learn, you only have to be 2 meters above your head, and that perspective that people can't see with their own eyes changes the whole game. And it's those shots in that, it probably, like, you're not allowed to fly directly above people, but in 30 meters ish up that high are the ones that I reckon are the best, because you've still got detail in the shot, and they're the ones that I sort of go chasing. So just to touch back on a question, the drone, I set myself a little pact. I think it was 2018, 2019, that I'll post a new photo every day on Instagram at the time. I hadn't used Instagram up until that point. I think I was the last person on earth to get on it, but that was my motivation. I think I got a drone for Christmas, and then that following year was every day I'd post something new, and that forced me to get out, and I stuck to it and posted something every day. And yeah, I saw, and I reckon I know the Great Ocean Road as well as anyone now, because you go looking for new spots. You drive down every single track looking for what's there, and even if you're not finding places, it's just nice to be out and about.
Absolutely. And it takes a certain level of dedication to post a new photo every day. Did you ever battle with that and not, you know, did you really push and you're like, oh my God, I'll just take a photo of this? Or was it better
yes and no? Look, I think my standards at the moment, I set myself way higher than I did back then. And that's a detriment as well, because you're like, my standards are up here, but I can't find a photo that I want to take today. So you do come home empty-handed a lot more than what I was back in those days, but that's okay. That's part of the fun as well, and chasing those landscape shots. And I still enjoy it, whether I'm getting something that I keep or whether I'm coming home with nothing.
Yeah, well, it must be said, for someone who's relatively new to the game, and literally, I mean, I think it's fair to say you started taking it seriously literally 4.5, 5 years ago. You've certainly grown a very strong portfolio of our local area in particular in a short amount of time. And do you just put that down to just the like you got hooked on it really early, or did you look at it early on as a possible business as well, and that was a motivator, or was it more just for personal reasons in the beginnings?
Personal reason. It was more I had kids and I felt a little bit lost. It wasn't a mental health issue or anything. I was a little bit lost with my own time. Everything was around the newborn and our new daughter. I've got 2 kids now, but and that sort of was the thing. That was the reason for me getting out and about at the start, was just to get that me time back. I wasn't out in the water, so I was taking photos of people in the water. And then it's sort of grown, like it's just been sort of a little bit organic. I won a couple of competitions early on, and that sort of gave me a bit of motivation that maybe I'm doing something okay. And yeah, people start buying or asking whether they can buy prints or use it for a business. And then you just start to believe in yourself more, because early on, like I was using my name as my social media handles and didn't have a website. And then when I changed it to Ash Hughes Photography, I was still cringing that I was calling myself a photographer. I was probably taking half decent photos, but I still had those standards where I was like, oh, every second person's calling himself a photographer these days. And that's okay. Like, that's great. It's, but yeah, I don't know. I felt a little bit embarrassed almost. So, but now the more you believe, like anything in life, the more you believe in yourself, the more you get out of it, I think.
Oh, mate, I think that's very common. I mean, there would be, a lot of people that I still, to this day, like I've been in the game for a long time, I still, someone will come in and they want to buy one of my photos and they say, oh, how much is it, in that size and in that frame? And it's like, $1,500, it's like, you almost sort of want to swallow it. Yeah. And then they turn around and say, that's great, I'll take it, and then it's like, oh, damn, I should have said $2,500. But, it's one of those things where I don't think you ever get used to that, putting yourself out there, and not to hark on it, but you do run a business, and that side of things can sometimes be, I don't know whether that starts to motivate. It certainly motivates me a lot. The business side, I get a massive buzz when someone, and I'm sure you do as well, when someone orders one of your prints. It's really cool when you see the order come through. And it's like, oh, what did they order? and it makes it interesting to find out what's actually selling as well. Do you get a kick out of it when someone orders something?
I find it very humbling, because selling artwork, like, it's to go on someone's wall in one of their in their house, or it's as a gift to someone else. They feel it's special enough to give as a gift. So you sort of sit back and think about that, and it's super humbling to think. You just pinch yourself that people want to do that with your work. So, but I did like the chat you had maybe last week, the week before, around knowing your worth and not sort of falling back on that. It's easy to sort of say, okay, well, maybe I'm not worth that and I'll give it to you for free. But
yeah,
if they go and find someone else, then they go find someone else. It's, if people are willing and see your work for what it's worth, then it's amazing.
No, let's be frank, mate. These, this gear and these drones, they ain't cheap. So it's good to be able to, make it self-perpetuating, and be its own beast. And I know that at this stage, you're not a full-time professional photographer, but do you see a time when that will be the case?
I certainly hope so. So just for the listeners and viewers, I am an accountant during the week, so I'm still full-time as an accountant. Look, I've been an accountant for 12 years now, and met some great people and work at a great place. But it's not the same buzz as you get out of photography. So if I can make a full-blown kick and a full-blown like that being my career, I would absolutely love that. So it's certainly going the right way. COVID's kind of scared me a little bit, especially from the wedding side of things, with weddings just coming to a complete halt for two decent lockdowns at the start of both seasons. So, but no, that's something that I've sort of got my eye set on in time. So,
well, I'm going to come back to your weddings in a sec, but one question I wanted to ask you, now that you've been in the game for a while, do you think early on you had any influence from other photographers? Were you looking at other people's work, or from the get-go were you just trying to break the mold and just do the Ash Hughes thing?
It's an interesting question. I've sort of been asked it a few times, and there's no famous photographer like you guys saw, or Cam talks about Peter Dombrowski. Is that his name?
Peter Dombrovskis, yeah.
Yeah. So there's no Ansel Adams or those sort of people that I absolutely adore. Well, none that I really think of rubbed off. There's Chris Burkhardt. He's got cool photography, but I love his life more than his actual photography. Like he's a go-getter.
Yeah.
But no, it's the person next door. It's the person that you meet out on a shoot. Those people that are out there chasing it and getting out there, and people say, "Oh, you're so lucky to see that." It's not really luck. It's just putting yourself out there, and you get lucky that way. It's but no, I don't have any strong influence, and I think that's because I didn't grow up with photography. My parents aren't artists or anything like that, so it's something that's come to me quite well. I'm not super old. I'm not a spring chicken either, but it's something that I've learned later in life, I guess.
Yeah, that's cool that it seems to have arrived at you at a point of need, but then just evolved really organically, which is awesome. And I think that does come through in your photography as well. I think I get to see a lot of Ash's stuff. I'm very lucky to call myself Ash's printer. I do a lot of big prints for him, canvas prints and that sort of stuff. And I'm constantly I really enjoy seeing his stuff come through my printer. Not to put too fine a point on it, but there's only so many photos of grandma's cat that I can print. And, dogs that have passed away, and this is my granddaughter. She lives in America. That's great. Yeah. Anyway, when I see one of Ash's comes through, it's great. And they're always quality, and I really enjoy, particularly when the big stuff comes. Of late, we've been doing a few fairly big prints for you, and they just look great. And I'd get a lot of nice comments when they're in the shop as well. They're rolling off my printer. It's like, a lot of people check out your work. So it's very, very cool. Have you, to this point, do you have a favorite image of yours that you've taken? Do you have one that you look at and go, you know what, I think that's my best, or would you say that you'd have a top 5?
It's hard. If you saw the walls of our house we built here last June, they're pretty bare, and that's because I still feel like my favorite photo is still out there yet to be taken. So
yep.
My wife's chosen one for the lounge room, but that's the only photo we've got up in the whole house. So I don't know. I have discussions with you, and we chat a little bit through Messenger and that sort of thing. And I'll come back from a session sometimes, and I'll say I'll be surprised if someone doesn't purchase that image. And I say the same to my wife all the time. That there's certain ones that I take that I just feel like are better than others. But then in saying that, there's the whole social media side of it as well that I know aren't going to be massively liked or commented on, but I still like the photo.
I know. I'll just pause you for a sec, because I know that photo that you took of the bird down at Lake Elizabeth.
Yeah,
you were super happy with, and I was really impressed with it as well. Did that have the kind of reach you thought it would, or not so much?
Probably had the kind of reach that I thought it would, which is not big. Because I know I can post. I know I can get like a real close-up shot of a breaking wave on a nice sunset, and I mean like right on the shore where you're right in tight, and I know that'll get 2,000 or 3,000 likes. And I don't go chasing likes, but I know that it will do that. But I don't necessarily love them photos either. Like they are okay. But yeah, they're like this bird photo. You probably put it up on the screen with all your...
I'm going to overlay it like magic. It's just how we roll here at the Down South Photo Show.
I've seen enough to know you're a musician.
It's right there. It's right there.
It's those sort of photos where you got patience, where you actually set up for the shot and you just wait for that bird to arrive. You know he's been flying in and out, and he's just got to be there looking at you and not looking the other way. And just the background of it was the actual running water of the lake, because it sort of goes into a stream just there. So it almost looks like a studio shot, because it's got the dark background on it. And it's just those ones that you sort of envision and plan for, and then they come to life like you expect them to, are the ones that you sort of look back and think, that's a shot there.
Yeah. And did you, so let's just dwell a bit more on that bird photo. Did you, when you got it, did you know, right, I've got it? You like instantly you could see on the screen on the camera, that's the one.
Yeah. And like I do edit a lot. Like I probably edit more than the average Joe, because it's getting back to that same, I don't care how the food's cooked as long as it looks good at the end. I think editing is just as important, and I find it very enjoyable, but just as important as taking it as a shot. Yeah, it helps with you getting the shot to begin with and framing it right, and having as little to do in editing as possible. But I love editing. I love bringing out the contrast in the right areas. I love highlighting what needs to be highlighted to draw the viewers in, or draw even yourself in, or shot. It's yeah, it's almost meditating to get home. And
so have you got to that point with your photography where you are looking at a shot, you're looking at it through the lens, you're already thinking ahead to the edit? Like I do that a lot now, where I look at a shot and I go, right, okay, the conditions aren't exactly how I want them to be, but this is the image I'm trying to capture. I'm under the pump for the light. I'm under the pump time-wise. I'm going to get this anyway, but I know that in a bit of Photoshop, bit of Lightroom, I'm going to be able to build that area out. Do you find yourself thinking like that?
Yeah, like I'm not one that necessarily changes an image as like I don't do a lot of sky replacements. I might do one in every 100 photos, which is like, that might be 3 a year or something. But yeah, I know that if the clouds are doing certain things, I know I can bring more color into it. Still natural, but just enhancing it enough that it doesn't look oversaturated.
Yeah, see, and to me, this is the artwork, the art form in itself there's the edit, and then there's, I can tell when a photo's been over edited, and it's finding that sweet spot where yes, the colors are natural. You would expect to see those colors under that in that environment, or under those conditions, and then trying to teach yourself just to hold back on that slider a little bit and all that sort of stuff. So yeah. So I reckon I spend, it literally takes sometimes seconds to get a photo. And sometimes I'll spend 20 times longer in the edit than I will, composing or taking the shot in the first place. So do you find yourself working away until the early hours of the morning sometimes?
Yeah, it can be addicting. You sort of get on a roll sometimes, and you want to do more of it. Like I've just started a YouTube channel, and
link in description, folks. It's a banger. It's worth checking out. It's he's 4 episodes in.
4, yeah. It's probably the worst time to start a YouTube channel when you're going into a 35-40 wedding season. It probably would be better to start at the other end, but so content's going to be a bit low because my priorities with weddings. But no, so I love the editing of the video as well, like the video side of the YouTube, and I'm still learning that. But the longest part of that edit is me editing the 5 or 6 photos that I actually put up on the screen to show.
Right. Yeah.
I can fly through the video stuff because I don't feel it has to be as perfect as the photos that I want to show. And maybe that's just me with the photography background. So it's I don't know. I know editing gets a knock, and you can sort of see sometimes like people they cool an image down, and the things that are supposed to be white are now blue. And you've got that beautiful blue water, or you've got that beautiful blue sky, but all of a sudden that white boat is now blue, and it's like, no, that doesn't look right now to me. So it's a fine line, but it's just practice.
Yeah, it is. It's definitely a fine line, but as I say, there's an art to it as well. Just briefly, while we're on the topic, I've gone out and I'm championing. What am I doing? I'm supporting Cameron tonight because I've got a Tasmanian beer. I can't believe I'm drinking a Cascade Premium Light in your presence, Ash. That's just, I don't know. Anyway, it was the only Tassie beer that I could find in my fridge, so I thought I'd have a crack at that. It's not that bad.
Have we actually heard from him? I'm on the South Australian, so I'm on the Coopers. Have we heard from Cam? Or is he?
We have heard from Cam. I got a message. So he's got for want of a better phrase, a sat phone with him that he can send me text messages to. The first text message I got was, "We're here. We're all set up. We're happy. How did our multi go?" That's pretty much. And so that's Cam in a nutshell. And then I got another message from him about 2 hours later. So this is 4 days ago. He's now more than halfway through his 8-day trip, and haven't heard from him since. So, You could be a permanent fixture, Ash.
I did say not his shots, but I saw a fair bit of snow down that way, I think. So it's,
yeah, no, they've definitely not ideal timing for a trip like that. But having said that, you put yourself in there in these conditions, he might actually come back with some of the most stunning photos you've ever seen. So it might work in his favour.
What's he saying?
Moving right along.
Sorry,
go ahead.
No, I was just saying, well, don't be a fair weather photographer. That's
exactly right. Exactly right. Don't be do as I say, not as I do. I want to talk to you about weddings, and I suppose in particular why. I personally have had experience with weddings, and I think I've shared on the podcast and with you as well. The last wedding I shot, I got in the car and was driving home and literally broke down in tears. I was that stressed about it and hated the experience. Luckily got some nice photos. They were wrapped with them, but it just really fried my brain. It was also 40 degrees in Bowen Heads and in a cramped church, and it just, nothing went well. I was under the pump all day, and it got to me. Why are you into the weddings, Ash?
Look, it took me a little bit longer than I probably look back on now, and wish I'd have gotten to it earlier. But I think they're just good fun. I think once you've got a few under your belt, and once you've got your gear set up, like your gear is, you got to have a backup of a backup, basically. So if something does go wrong, and touch wood, it hasn't yet, but something will go wrong somewhere with your gear. So you just got to be comfortable and confident that you can pick up your next camera or your next lens or whatever. And once you get over that, there's not that many elements from a photography point of view that you can't slow down. So there's the first kiss, some vows, ring sort of movement, mainly the ceremony stuff, and some emotions that sort of happen out throughout the day. But everything else, you can sort of direct and slow things down if things aren't going right. So doing portraits and that. So that pressure and that you put on yourself, or I put on myself before I even started wedding photography, it dissipates, it goes away very quickly. And after that, I just reckon it's good fun. Like it's, I think my personality attracts a certain type of person with that relaxed, calming vibe. I post weddings and that I want to take more weddings of. So yesterday I had a wedding at Bellbury Estate, which is Bellbury Harvest, which is like a local wedding venue. And it's like a big pond, sort of marquee, just a real rustic sort of vibe. So they're the outdoor and that landscape connection that I've had, or where I started out in photography, where you can really bring those surroundings into your shots as well, bring the greenery, bring the natural elements in. So I get home from, like you said, you're crying. I get in the car, and I didn't know the couple from a bar of soap before I met them that morning. Most of the time, sometimes I have a meeting before, but most of the time I meet them that day, sometimes 2 minutes before the ceremony. If they've booked me to start at the ceremony, I'm meeting the bride as she's getting out of the car, and she's about to go into the happiest day of her life. And she doesn't know me. I don't know her. I don't know anything about how she's going to react or how uptight or how relaxed she is. So, but I get in the car on the way at the end of the day, and I'm like, I almost feel like I'm best friends with this couple and I've just shared some of the most special moments with them that they'll have in their lifetime. And now
that's very cool. That's a really cool attitude to have towards it. And I think it does, honestly, I do think it takes a particular kind of person to be a wedding photographer. A, you've got to be a good photographer, which you clearly are, but B, it is personality driven as well. And yeah, I mean, I hopefully that particular wedding where I had a nightmare, I know, as I say, I got great photos. They were wrapped with them. I got no negative feedback from them at all. But I think for me, it was, I just kept it all bottled up the whole day. And that's why but I was lucky enough in that point where, I didn't have to keep, well, you don't have to either, but I didn't have to keep shooting weddings financially or anything like that. So I was just like, you know what, that's not my bag.
Yeah.
With you, was there, I mean, obviously there was the first wedding you shot. Were you like a bee shooter at a wedding, or was it a friend's wedding or something like that?
Yeah. And this is probably where my landscape side, like I grew a pretty big exposure through my landscapes pretty quickly. So like from a business point of view, it doesn't make the money that weddings do, but indirectly, I reckon it makes a lot of money through weddings. Like I can push things through Instagram and just little things to say, hey guys, I'm here doing weddings as well. And then because if people are following me, say on Instagram or socials or something, they're more likely to hang around in a landscape sense. They want to see good landscape shots. If you're following me on a wedding account, you're there maybe because you're getting married and nothing else. Like I'm not going to go following someone's wedding page for that. But so then I can sort of just put it under their noses to say, I'm here, I'm a photographer taking weddings. So it's and then from there it sort of drives some business in, and I can't measure that. I can't measure where it's come from all the time, but it's
Well, how many weddings this season have you got booked?
30. It's hard because I've juggled so much with all the COVID reshuffling. 36, 37,
which
maybe.
Is that's absolutely amazing that you've gone within the space of literally a couple of years of not shooting a wedding to having 36 weddings, and I'm assuming there'll be many weekends where you've got more than one wedding to shoot.
So there's three.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, it's look, it's humbling at the same time. But yeah, last season was my first full season out by myself, but I did a couple before that, just as COVID hit actually. So as a second shooter, which I put the call out on my landscape account to say, is there anyone out there? I'm happy to do it for free. I want to build a portfolio. Anyone that wants a free photographer for their wedding day? I think I know my way around a camera a little bit, but as you say, my main job from wedding photographers is to get good shots. Okay. So that's what they're paying me for essentially, but to get them good shots, it's about the people management and how you go about it. So if you're fun and having a good time with them, having a beer with them on their day, things are natural. It's not that wall in between where here's this guy taking photos of us and we're trying to act like we're having a good time. If you're part of that action,
I could only imagine that's again part of the artistry of it is getting a relaxed couple, and you've got to put your best foot forward from that side of things from the first moment you see them. So credit to you. When it comes to, and we won't delve right into settings and anything like that, but are you finding now that when you're shooting weddings, it's pretty much you know it by rote now, where you basically, even when you're packing your gear or as you get out of the car, you pretty much know exactly what settings you need when you're shooting a wedding? Has it sort of become like that now? Essentially,
and I think letting secrets out of the bag, shooting very shallow with a...
No one listens to this show, mate. That's fine. It's just you and me, really.
Setting very shallow apertures goes a long way to wowing people. And it's that simple sometimes. People stick their phones up and iPhones, and it often captures. They're getting better at it, and sort of having that. Is it bokeh, bokeh,
bokeh, whatever you want to call it? There's some bokeh going on behind you right now.
True. It's that blurriness. But yeah, if you can get that happening, people are wowed instantly. Whether it's a wedding photo, whether it's a kid photo, people. They're attracted to that because it looks like it's almost professional in a way. So yeah, I sort of know that keep it low for most part. You get some group shots in that where you sort of bump it up a bit so everyone's in focus. But and then you just sort of play around with the ISO. The thing with the wedding is, say I've got an 8-hour wedding, right? It's probably going to be at least 12 hours of my editing, which I'm trying to hone. I want to get it to be 1-for-1. So if it's 1 hour, I spend 1 hour editing. But you sort of know that you want to try and get as much in camera as possible, because you don't have that time that you do on a landscape photo to spend 30 minutes, an hour on every photo or longer. You've got 600-700 photos to deliver or more sometimes. That's a long time to be editing, especially when you've got a number of weddings sort of banking up. So absolutely.
So how many frames do you fire off? Let's say it is a 8-hour wedding. How many frames would you generally shoot?
All right. So yesterday's a good example. That was a 6-hour wedding. Amazing couple, like probably the most I've ever laughed. Well, definitely the most I've ever laughed at a wedding. So their emotions were just all over the shop with laughter and just bouncing off each other. I shot about 1,500 images in 6 hours, and instantly, the first thing I do after I back up the photos when I get home is cull. So there's a program called Photo Mechanic. It's not that expensive for what it does. It's like $300 or something, one-off payment. It has a really high quality preview that you can pump a heap of photos in without blowing your computer up. So if you put 1,500, 1,600 photos in the Lightroom, depending on what your computer is or laptop, you're going to be at a standstill pretty quickly with
absolutely, particularly if you're shooting full frame like you do.
Yeah, exactly. So a 48 megapixel image or whatever on my Sony's, I don't know what I mean. I've got two. I shoot on two Sony A7 IIIs. Is my sort of weapon of choice. Yep. But yeah, you chuck them into Photo Mechanic and I'll fly through them. So first instinct is usually the best instinct. So I've got a traffic light system, which is basically 1, 2, 3. So red, orange, green. I just hit the keypad, and red is it's out of focus. It's
going in the bin.
Exactly. I don't delete it because it'll stay as raw in my storage. Orange is maybe, and I'll come back and look at the maybes, and green is that's a banger. That's getting through to the next stage. So and like that, like from that amount yesterday, I cut it to about 500 pretty quickly. So it's like split second. Yeah. Yes, maybe, no.
Yeah. So 500 images that you're happy to show the couple.
That I'm happy to get to Lightroom.
Okay, right. And then from there, it's narrowing it down again.
Yeah.
So I would imagine, do you have a magic number in mind? Are you like saying, okay, I need 50 banger images here, or is that normally what you end up with?
Oh, look, out of this 500, I'll probably deliver 400 of them, 350 to 400. I don't really have a set number on I do family shots, and some people limit families to 20 photos for the hour shoot. I don't, whatever's a keeper, in my opinion, you get. Look, I think I've spoken to you about it in the past as well. At the end of the day, there's probably only going to be so many images that the couple actually take out of that they put on their wall, that they put in an album. And over time, the rest just gets lost. Like if you're storing it on a USB, if you're storing it on an online gallery, there's a time where it'll just get lost and you won't access it anymore whatsoever. So always encourage you to go to guys like Brendan, yourself, and print your photos, because then it becomes a keepsake to yourself, but then the next generation as well. It's got to get off your computer.
So now, if you're listening to this show and you think that you have what it takes to be a guest on my show, that's what you got to bring. You got to bring the plug for camera and photo. That's just got to happen. So it helps if you like a beer, but that doesn't, and sport apparently, but that's fine. That doesn't have to happen either.
And you got to send, what do you hate? You got to send lots of grandma cat photos and.
Oh my goodness. None of that. Cam's not here, so we can do this behind his back. You use your drone for weddings occasionally, is that right?
Yeah. That's the landscape photographer for me. And I had a meeting before this podcast actually with a potential couple, and they were talking to me about it, and I explained, if you're going to put something on your wall, people don't tend to put too big faces of themselves on their wall that's always looking over them. So
this ain't the 70s anymore.
No. the ones I sort of see, like people do it themselves. They can do it through me, which will go through you, or they can do it themselves. But it almost becomes a piece of art because they're this tiny little thing in the image, but it's still that connection that they're there, and I'm capturing the landscape around them. So whether that be on the beach or whether that be the venue that they're at, like they've spent a lot of money to book these venues for a reason. I think that becomes the art piece, that just like buying a landscape photo to put on your wall.
Yeah. And also the fact that it's on their wedding day. I mean, and they'll have that personal connection with it as well. But I believe a photo is not a photo till it's printed as well. So I love that the images that you deliver, they are wall worthy, and I think, as you say, your landscape background comes out in you. And I honestly do think anyone who's, if anyone happens to be listening who wants a wedding photographer, this guy right here is your man. We are getting close to time on the podcast. I just wanted to ask you, I know what you've got coming up in the next couple of years. What are your future goals and plans, Ash, for where do you think your photography is going to take you? Where do you want it to take you?
Well, in the medium term, it's going to take me all around Australia. So I am taking a year off my accounting gig, taking a year off weddings. In 2023, we are packing up the house and the family and chucking them in a caravan. And we're doing a big lap of Australia. So look, I've got a lot of weddings and a lot of planning to do before that. So I've got just over 12 months, 13 months to do that. We're going in January. But yeah, I've got a caravan getting built at the moment. I've got a new car that's supposed to be getting delivered next month, but that's been 8 months in the making with COVID. Yeah, so we're going to lap Australia or get as far around Australia as we can in 12 months. So it's going to be...
So you're giving yourself a year
to
get as far as you can. And there's no... You don't have to circumnavigate the country. You're not on that kind of schedule. You're just like, right, we might pitch up here for 6 weeks.
Yeah, I think there'll be a point where we get to somewhere in Queensland, just on a back of the envelope type planning that I've done, somewhere in Queensland, and we'll be running out of time. So we'll go clockwise around Australia, start in Tassie, go say hi to Cam, who I don't even know. Does he know that I'm on here tonight yet, or was he sort of?
No, I don't think so. I think he's gonna be nicely surprised when this goes to air tomorrow night, or when he gets back.
Okay, well, I'll go say hello to him and spend some time down there, and then we'll take off South Australia, Western Australia. But like some of those early places, I can see us spending a lot of time in, and then the further we get around, the closer it gets to Christmas. So if we end up in somewhere in New South Wales where it's super busy, it's going to be super pricey, and I don't have bottomless pockets. But yeah, so I think we'll go as slow or as fast as we need to, and see where we sort of land. So.
Yeah. So logistically, you're obviously putting your real job on hold for 12 months.
Yep. So we can do that. That they, it's part of.
They're happy to say see you in 12 months' time and welcome you back when you get back.
Exactly. If we come back.
Very, very cool.
It is, and like I think the thing that'll keep the wedding side of it, like weddings are booked. Well, I'm taking bookings for the 2 or 3 days before we leave on that trip now. So weddings are booked a long time in advance. So they're going to be the thing that means we have to definitely come back on a certain date. So that'll be depending on the bookings. That'll be when we sort of need to be back in town. So, which
isn't necessarily a bad thing, and particularly, I mean, you're going to have the kids with you as well. So that's awesome. I'm super impressed that you're taking that plunge, because I think, just from what I'm into, obviously your photography is going to benefit greatly from that. You're going to have a fantastic portfolio of pretty much all around the country. I don't know if you'll ever come back, Ash.
Well, I don't know. House prices that way at the moment. We could sell up and live in the caravan forever, I think. So
it's got a nice ring to it.
Yeah, as you say, I think I'll improve my skills in that. It's like a sport. When the more you do it, the more informed you get. If you're getting out and about every day, then your eye gets trained to something. If you take some time off, like I have basically at the moment through weddings, I'm not getting out there for landscape shots. It takes you a little bit of time to get back into it. So I'm really looking forward to being out there with my camera at the ready for every single landscape that is basically at the front door of the caravan. So.
Absolutely. Well, I look forward to seeing you on that adventure. No doubt your Instagram account will get a nice little workout. Your website, things will appear, hopefully. Or is that a plan to keep them ticking out on Instagram as you travel?
Yeah, for sure. And like the whole point of me starting my YouTube was to document or to learn the editing side of it from a video point of view, and for that trip basically. Like I don't want it to be purely about my business or anything like that. I want to have fun with the kids and my wife and the whole family, and put the camera away as that as well. But while we're in some of those locations, it can't hurt to be recording or capturing some of those moments as well. So yeah, all of the above: video,
Right.
Insta, socials, website will be getting a workout.
Yeah, well, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show. As I say, I don't know, Cam's he's got a lot to live up to now. So really appreciate your time tonight on the Down South Photo Show. If you would like to check out Ash's work, as I say, everything will be linked below, of course, or in the podcast notes, ashhughesphotos.com. Awesome website. Go and check it out. Follow this guy on Instagram and be inspired by some of the awesome stuff that he puts out there. Ash, thanks for your time. And we will, well, I guess you'll hopefully listen to the Down South Photo Show, keeping on going. And we'll see everyone in the next episode. Cheers, guys.
Thank you. Thanks, Brendan, for inviting me on. It's been an absolute pleasure. And yeah, keep watching, everyone. These guys are going places and it's very informative. So cheers.
No worries. Good on you, Ash. See you, everyone. Bye.